It's the Marc Clarke Morning Show. Healthy, wealthy, and wise.
It's early morning, and somehow Marc Clarke has to wake up. Of course, Marc has a little help.
I just want to flow. Will you stay forever?
Level up, 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 level up.
On the road again. I can't wait to get on the road again. Riding bike on Hilton Head Island. I can't wait to get on the road again. Bam! Mom's in front. Bam! Skylar's second. Spencer's third. And last but not least, the first, Sid Rock. Heading to the beach. Hey, what's up? It's Marc Clarke. When I interviewed Debbie, I was excited about her book. When I got her book, Harvesting Your Thoughts, Emotions, and Actions, I am so impressed and fired up. What I love about this book, it has inspirational quotes, it has affirmations, and it makes you look inside. It makes you look into yourself. Like, for instance, this is one of my favorite quotes. Now, you know I'm an only child, so I love this one. Sometimes you have to be alone to realize that you are the only thing that you need. Sometimes you have to be alone to realize that you are the only thing that you need. That right there is so inspirational. And then what I love about it is she gives you the motivation, and then she asks you your thoughts. What say you? And then she gives you a space to write down your thoughts. So you could date it. You could put your thoughts, how you were feeling. You can come back and check it out. It's a workbook that you can really use and apply to your life. Look at it. They say big things come in small packages. This is packing a wallop. And it's also, again, just a workbook that really can change your life. And that's why I love it so much. Again, Harvesting Your Thoughts, Emotions, and Actions by my girl, Debbie Mendez-Taylor. Get it on Amazon. Get it on Amazon today. Let's go. Shannon Ramsey, her album is Manifest. Pick it up. That's my girl. Happy Thursday. And welcome to the show. I'm sorry I had played all that stuff because I got my partners, and also I thought it was cool. I posted me on the treadmill, and then Shannon just hopped on and just did that part. And so again, she says the 14th you can pre-order her music. Welcome to the show. It's Friday. We've got an exciting show today. I'm so excited because coming up we have a brother, executive producer of this movie that's delving into Black men and mental health. Black men and mental health, something we do not really talk about as much as we talk about at the barbershop. Who's on football team, what's gossip. We do rarely go into our feelings. And so I love this, man, this movie is amazing. And again, we'll be talking with the executive producer. And also today, get things started, I wanted to hop on because The Color Purple, the movie, is coming December 2023. It's coming December 2023. And they've announced the cast. They've announced the cast. And so I know Bootsy Vegas has a take on this. So Bootsy, Color Purple, the movie, it's coming December 2023. They've announced the cast. Let's go. So we'll start at Halle Bailey is going to be Nettie. Halle Bailey is going to be Nettie. I'm trying to remember. Nettie, was Nettie the sister?
Yes. Sister.
So Nettie, that's Nettie. We got
I can see that.
Danielle Brooks is going to be Sophia from Orange is the New Black.
I can see that.
That's a good call. I think that's a good call, right?
I'm liking it so far. I was really skeptical, but now you're
her is going to be Squeak.
I like her.
I don't remember Squeak though. Who's Squeak? I don't remember Squeak.
Yeah, I have to do a refresher course of my Color Purple intake because it's been a while.
Coleman Domingo is going to be Mr. Do you know Coleman Domingo, the actor? He does a lot of stuff. He was in Fear of the Walking Dead. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's you know his face. He was in the what's the one of the White House, the Butler. He's been in a whole bunch.
Lee Daniels. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
Lee Daniels. You know I'm talking about the guy?
Yeah.
He's from the UK, but he does a ton of movies.
He does a ton of movies.
He said good luck. He's gonna be Mr.
Hey, Mr. was the first person that I ever saw on screen and I hated. Danny Glover did such a great job. I hated Danny. Man, I don't.
Yeah.
Whew.
You know what's funny? Now people, they didn't say who's gonna be the father, but I just had a thought. Somebody said, okay, Shaletta said Squeak was Harpo's wife. Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. After he and Sophia split up. Now somebody said that Danny and I said that Samuel Jackson would be a good father. The father, he would, right? But you know what just hit me? You know it just hit me?
I'm sorry.
You know it just hit me?
What?
Yo, it just hit me, y'all. Charlotta, feel me on this one. Because you're right. I think Samuel Jackson, he would have been a good father, right?
Oh,
but
he would have.
But keeping with the kind of colorist action, what's going on? Shout out to Spectre Nation. We're on the Spectre Nation's channel this morning. And Spectre Nation, we're going to have you on my channel next week, okay? And matter of fact, Spectre Nation, I'll send you a link if you want to hop on. Matter of fact, yeah, once you hop on, let me send you the link so you can hop on.
Everybody's welcome. Come on.
Come on in. So, yeah. So, this just hit me, y'all. I'm doing this for pause. You ready?
Yes.
You ready?
I'm ready now.
Terrence Howard.
Oh, yes, he would. Man, you spot on with that one.
Terrence Howard would be hated.
Man, because he could play a villain. I hated him too.
The light skin, older. You can tell what you doing, and his voice already's there.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yay, man.
So our own DC's own Taraji P. Henson and Suge Avery.
Hey, boo. Hey, Taraji.
Dave, we just added Dave. They were talking about Color Purple before we do our segment.
Mm-hmm.
So you're catching. I just hit me, Dave. We were announcing. I said Terrence Howard would be a good Mr.'s daddy. Somebody else.
Why you acting at your own dinner table, but you acting like a waiter, man? What's wrong with you?
But somebody said Samuel Jackson. Okay, Samuel Jackson might be the leader, but it's the light skin angle. I thought Terrence Howard. Okay, so we got Suge Avery, Taraji P. Henson.
That's a great Terrence Howard impression too, bro. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think it was man.
Okay.
Fantasia Sealy, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
Fantasia.
a thick Sealy.
And so, but now, if you guys did you see, if you Color Purple on Broadway, let me tell you, Fantasia, here's the thing. Fantasia's soul, heart and soul. She was so, because Cynthia Erivo, she probably was, I'm sure the Hollywooders wanted her because she's from the UK and the whole acting thing, but Fantasia's heart. So I'm older than y'all, so this hits different. I saw Fantasia on Broadway, and what Fantasia did was she brought church to Broadway. Right now, I'm gonna play a bit. This is from a fan, Fantasia's closing night. Now, Fantasia in this scene, she's playing Sealy as an old lady. This is fresh off her win at, American Idol. She's 22 years old.
Wow.
She's on Broadway. She's going through it, and she kind of crashed. She kind of crashed with this. But this is the closing night with Fantasia on Broadway. A little bit.
Don't
Take your time, Taze. Hey. Sing, Taze. She better do it. Hey, baby. She's still mine, I know. Yeah. She's still loving. Come on, Taze. I'm not going to record. I got class. I can't record. They still mine, I hope. Hey. Sing, Taze. Sing, Tasia. I got my house, and still people hold out. Hey. Got myself, when nobody can hold out. Got my hands doing good, my faithful too. Yes, come on, Tasia. I can't record no more. You record. Me too. She missed the whole verse. Oh, come on! Woo! Take your time, Tay. Hey, now. Come on. Take a deep breath. Take it! I'm gonna hold my head up. I'm gonna put my soul to the back and look you straight in the eye. I'm gonna burn somebody when they walk by. I'm gonna sing. Hey.
You might want to do Oh my God.
Talk
I
about it,
won't
girl.
say no. You don't even have to give me that.
Talk
You
about it,
know
girl.
I want. You know I want. Thank you.
You see that, Kenzie? Yeah.
I got the part.
What part you talking about? What part you talking about?
Fantasia got the part right. Actually, Oprah Winfrey called her and told her she got the part. So when Fantasia did it at 22, right after American Idol, this was that moment, right? And Fantasia kind of, I'm not gonna say she blew it because her performances were amazing, but she basically cut it short, you know, because she was so much was going on in her personal life. This moment where it was sold out shows night after night, amazing performances at 22, it was a wrap. And so now look at life. 16 years later, she gets to do the movie. So she's in a different place now, right?
Full circle. First things first, though. Shout out to the person who shot that on an iPhone 1 and had 2G service, because they did a great job to capture that, bro. I'm like, whoa.
And so I wanted to at least get that out because, you know, that's going to be interesting. It's going to be, but it's going to be a different thing. It's not going to be like the Color Purple that we saw before. And speaking of Color Purple, I think Color Purple for a lot of Black people, if we're honest, right, with all the drama that it dealt with, talking about the drama that we as a people had to go through post-slavery within our own selves, mental health. Actually, that's probably one of the first movies that dealt with mental health, because I think, again, I don't know if you guys remember, but so Celie was so beat down and so in search of love when her and Suge had that relationship. Even the church folk, the way they, you know, because you knew her backstory and you know her life, the way they did the story, even church people for the first time, Dave, they were okay with the love, the intimacy that Celie shared with Suge, because for the first time, for a lot of people, we saw her backstory and understood she just needed to be loved. If it's a man, if it's a woman, it didn't matter. She just needed love. And so I think that was one of the first things about that movie, the mental health aspect. And speaking of mental health, Dave, you have introduced this young man to us. So CJ is getting ready to come on, executive producer of Normalized. So Dave, give us a backdrop as we bring CJ on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, CJ is now in the building.
Ooh, okay.
My man. So CJ is an amazing guy. An amazing guy. He's one of my longest running clients. He has a podcast that addresses the one thing that we don't talk about, especially in our community, and that is mental health from a male perspective. Like we've been raised, if no other man on the planet has been raised to just suck it up and take it, it's the Black man, right? And so this Black man has been very, very transparent when it comes to what it takes to deal with our trauma and then heal with our trauma, you know, and it's important. And what he does is a very, you know, transparent, sacrificial work from his podcast and now this new show that he's doing, which is a dramatic retelling of some of the things that he's been through. You know, so, it's amazing.
And Dave, I got a clip. I'll play a clip of this, of Normalized. This is CJ, executive producer. He put this together.
I do know that one night in particular changed the way I view my life forever.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't have had alcohol served.
Just in my head, you know, I'm 30-something, and I don't feel like I've done much in my life.
Let's go on.
But can a man love his wife, his kids, home, and still not want more? Still hate himself?
You have to learn to love yourself. If you can't do that, then we can't do this.
Opening up and being vulnerable can be pretty difficult. Problem is, we don't allow ourselves to see what's under the mask.
You know, CJ, seeing this, this reminded me when the first time I read the book, Makes Me Want to Holler by Nathan McCall.
Yeah, great book.
The character, I did not, that was not my story. It gave me insight and made me think about my friends who were just like that. You know what I mean? Like I think, and that happens when you have friends, you guys don't really think alike. So you're trying to make sense of, dude, you got everything. Why are you wilding out right now? You know?
Yeah, that's kind of my life story.
Yeah, you know what I mean? It's almost like you're like, dude, we're all having a good time. You got a beautiful family at home, and you're about to go. What is going on? And so just seeing this was so compelling, CJ, because it helped me understand and look into my brothers. And you're right, when it comes to men, Dave and Bootsy, we don't really talk about it. We got that friend that wiles out and does crazy stuff, but we really don't go in depth about it. We just kind of hope he don't hurt himself and hurt others. So CJ, tell us about, first of all, and the quality of this thing is amazing. It's like it's amazing. So tell us about that. Tell us about the whole project.
Yeah, the whole project. Thanks, Dave, for those kind words. And yeah, Dave and I go back a while, and I remember talking to Dave about my podcast, and he was gracious enough to have me on the show a few years ago, which I appreciate. It started with a podcast because I had recently gotten into a car accident, and my therapist said, you should think about doing something with your time other than drinking or partying or using drugs and stuff like that. You should do something different with it. So he suggested a podcast. I started doing research. And I realized when we talk about podcasts in the Black community, we don't really share ourselves. We kind of talk about other people and we talk about this industry or that industry, but we never actually look at ourselves. So I wanted to be different. So I started a podcast where I basically look at myself and what was my role in certain situations. It's funny that you bring up makes me want to holler. I have an episode of my podcast called Remember Vanessa. When I read Makes Me Want to Holler, I remember the trains chapter 6, trains. And as a 14-year-old kid, I was like, oh, that's so cool. Because like I didn't have a father raising me. I didn't have any context of how men should be treating women. But then as I got older and I wanted to revisit the subject on my influence of and the Me Too culture, like what have I done to contribute to this? I went back and read the book. And I was like, oh my God, he's talking about gang rape. Like my whole perspective changed once I became a man. You know what I mean? And I had to like learn that. And so, what I wanted to do is basically show in this podcast what Black men are really like, not the stereotype that you see on TV. I'm a professional, extremely successful in the transportation industry. I oversee a $5.5 billion 5-year capital project or program. So, I want people to see that there's more of us like this. But one of the things I do have is I'm bipolar. And that's something that hit me. And I really had to learn what it allowed me to understand what I was going through. But I really had to like relearn myself. And so once we did the podcast, I got approached by Damian Core. Shout out to Damian. He actually is in DC area. And he was basically like, this could actually, your podcast could translate into a film. So we kind of got together. We created a story. We created the story the night of my accident. And then just like that, we created a film. It took about 6 months. Did it during COVID. It was tough. And it's funny to be a part of this because it's built in different pieces. But when you see it come together and you see what we're really talking about here, about men being vulnerable, about men acknowledging their sins, and acknowledging that sometimes you can't overcome it. This is life. Sometimes I don't win. If I shouldn't be using drugs, sometimes I'm like, I've relapsed. You know what I mean? That's a part of life. And so it shows the real story behind addiction, alcoholism, mental health, in a way that's not really articulated. It was important for me to share it because, first of all, people hear bipolar, they think you have multiple personalities. I don't. I have one personality. It's just me. I just get highs. I get lows. I get hyperactive. I'm that dude. My friends would always have to be like, why is CJ wilding out? What is wrong with CJ? CJ, why can't you just be happy? Look, you got everything. Why do you always want more? That's part of my condition. I can't sit still. I can't just be happy. It's great watching you with your 3 daughters ride bikes. I have my 2 daughters and I ride bikes with them. And like, I try to be in those moments, but it's hard. It gets hard because my brain is constantly spinning. It's constantly moving on to the next one. And so I'm trying to like just really get out there what it's like to live with this, that we can be successful. We're not pariahs of society. You should engage us. We're very creative, create this film, and now working on a TV show. So there's a lot that has happened here, but it's really just for me being vulnerable and me saying this is what Black men do go through. It doesn't get talked about.
CJ, you have, this is great because we do not now, and we say it all the time. I think we've said it, Bootsy and Dave, we say it all the time. Men don't da. But you see what CJ's doing, we really don't do, because I think the narrative for most of us, the not narrative, but for most black men, right, who are trying to be about their life, right? The first thing is what? Dealing with success. And so for some people, if you come from nothing and you make something, then like you say, in your mind, the logical thing is, well, I should be happy. I'm successful. Right. But this is great, CJ, because you're tapping into something that, and I always say it, and I'm sorry, one day I'll meet them and they'll be like, punch me in the face. But when I look at Floyd Mayweather, when I look at 50 Cent, when I look at some of these very successful people, I see a person who's not satisfied. Mm-hmm. Like, and again, your character, or not your character, you, CJ, that insight where it's like, it's not enough. It could be $1 billion. It could be all these films. And it's kind of like in the entertainment industry, that kind of personality kind of wins because they are always, like you said, they can't stop the motor, right? Right. But the problem is you can't stop the motor. So you got all the houses, you got all the money, you got all the da-da-da, but you really can't go sit down and really enjoy it because you're kind of like always on to the next, right? So
it's
the industry,
double-edged sword. It is.
And the industry encourages it. If you have a team around you and you get plugged into the industry, right, Dave, it encourages, right? It's like, keep going. Yep, do 1 billion things.
It's so unhealthy, though, right? We don't talk about the fact that, yes, you're doing all these things and you're out here, you're killing, you're conquering, you're murdering the situation. But what are you trading off for that? Like everybody wants to be Superman, but people don't realize where Superman actually lives is not Midtown Metropolis. He lives in the North Pole in his fortress of solitude because he can hear every single cry of every single mother. He can hear every single rape, every single murder, every single robbery, and he has to choose where he's going to go. And that burden is massive, but that burden is an allegory for what men have to face every single day. And nobody ever cries for Superman.
Right. That's true. And you got everything. He's good. That's why one of my producers used to say, we had these conversations about people and money, and she would just be like, they're good. And that used to always bother me. I couldn't figure out what it was, because I think what it was is, like you said, Dave, having money doesn't necessarily mean somebody is good. It's like there's a whole bunch that goes into that. And so, CJ, what are the techniques that you've, for that person that's listening that is in that same space? What techniques do you use? Because here you are successful, you got the family, you got the time with the family. What tricks do you do to keep yourself in the moment?
Well, it's hard. And every day is a challenge and every day is a struggle. The first thing, most important thing is you just have to be true with yourself. And when somebody's talking, a lot of times we compare out. So we look at them and say, why we're not like you, instead of comparing in and hearing somebody talk and thinking, if you see a bum on the street that's just drinking nonstop, you look at him like, that's not me. But maybe if you look at him drinking, think, maybe my drinking could lead me to that. You compare in. And so now you're finding more in common with this person. So the first thing you need to do is really look at yourself, understand yourself, accept yourself. But when I get hypomania, which just, I go off like the charts. It's important for me. Techniques I use, I breathe. I focus on my breathing. I take a step back. I inhale through my nose and I exhale through my mouth. And I just try to be where my feet are. Just think where my feet are, right where you are. That's where you are. You aren't given anything else in life. You got that moment. Take it all in. Therapy. I was out of therapy for a year, and it was a year of hell. It was actually the year that I filmed the film. And my therapist died, and it was horrible. I found a great black man as a therapist, and he was almost like a therapist to me. You know what I mean? Like I could go to him for anything, and he died. And I had this year without talking, and that really built up pressure. So now I'm back into therapy. Some people choose medication. I don't, and that's a big thing. I don't because, to be very honest, my hypermania is a gift. It gives me energy. It gives me it makes me creativity. It makes me a little different from most people. And it allows me to keep pushing. If I quell that, then you kind of lose me. My therapist is like, embrace who you are. You're bipolar, embrace that. Don't run from it. There's nothing wrong with that. And so, the more I get out and the more I talk to people about this, the key thing is empathy. If I can get people to empathize with me, you know what I mean? They're really looking at themselves, and then maybe they can just start to make incremental steps to improving their lives, or at least addressing like what's really going on. If you have a spinning brain, you know what I mean? If you get hyped for 3 days in a row and then you get crashed for like 3 days in a row and you can't explain why, If it's hard for you to sleep at night, that's a symptom of depression. Some people just think you can't sleep. If you can't focus, it's another symptom of depression. But then if just like that, you switch and you can't be stopped, you have an inflated sense of self, you take on everything, you may have a little bit of bipolar in you. There's 50 million people who have it. This is a very common syndrome. It's hereditary. And in my family, it goes deep. It goes deep on my father's side. So it's just,
it's interesting because Dave, you mentioned this the other day when we were talking about Kanye West.
Mm-hmm. Perfect example.
I think Mark froze up.
Did I forget to pay his Wi-Fi bill again?
You know what you did. Well, you know what? I actually wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
First of all, your story is amazing. This whole thing has been amazing so far. And what I'm taking in, which is I'm really appreciating, is that you have a full understanding of what it is you're dealing with. I would love to know at this point in your life, have you defined what happiness and success is to you right now?
No. That's the first part. Yeah. No.
Right. I'm just asking. You know what I mean?
Like, I know, and people like, you got it together, and I'm like, I do, but I don't. I'm a human like you, and so I try to define it. It's hard. Going through a separation with my wife. You know what I mean? Missing my kids. I want to be with my kids. Like there's personal stuff you have to deal with.
Right.
Successful. I'm very successful at what I do. And it's a blessing. And I can't believe I've gotten here so quickly. But people just do that. Like you make a lot of money and you have a place in downtown Chicago, you have a place in Maryland, do that. But it's never enough.
No, because and the reason why I asked was because I've never heard somebody speak with such understanding of what the issue is internally to themselves. So, even right now, I'm actually thinking as well. But so that was the reason. I don't want the question to be offensive.
It's not offensive at all. No.
Okay.
It's a great question. That's the irony of it. You seem like you have it together, but you're still going through that process. You're still going through that struggle. We end the film on a very real note that most people kind of got taken back by. And once we release it, we have we're DC International Film Festival premiering March 3rd through the 6th. So once we have that premiere, we can release it. We talk about the reality is sometimes this is something you just got to manage. It's not something you win. It's not something you cure. Right. And you have your good days and bad days. Sometimes you lose that battle. But it's it's a war. It's a long process. So I appreciate it. It's not an offensive question.
No problem.
We should always ask ourselves what makes us happy.
And the reason why I'm asking is because you're giving me great understanding right now. I'm sure you're giving great understanding to the listeners, because sometimes we don't know how to dissect ourselves internally like that. So that's what I'm appreciating about what you're sharing right now. You go ahead, Mike. I'm sorry.
No, it's called Normalized, because Jarrell was just asking. The film is called Normalized.
And I'll give you the website. It's called normalizethemovie.com.
Normalizethemovie.com, Jarrell.
I'll put it in the chat, yeah.
I had a I don't know if you got, I don't know, Dave and Bootsy, do you know the radio production guy named Ghost? I don't know if you guys knew Ghost or not, but he was at HUR. I work with him and also work with him in New York. And like you said, CJ, first of all, we don't really have a lot of conversations about mental health, right? Then a lot of us have family members who don't seek help. So we kind of push medication, right?
Right.
And then some cases are so extreme that it's not really a conversation. You have to have medication. But what you said, CJ, is so interesting, because my friend Ghost, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me talking about it. We work together every day, and so Ghost managed. He had a couple different things going on, and really, CJ, was interesting. The technique you said about your feet and staying in the moment. He had a situation, I forgot what it was called, but let's say you're walking your dog, and then it would feel like you're floating away, like physically you're leaving, you're going away, you're blowing in the wind, right? And so he had techniques where he would rub his finger. Right. You had these systems. He told me the first time, and then probably, like you say, the bipolar part probably, or whatever it was, he's in the line at Starbucks, and a voice told him to kill the person in front of him. This is the first time it showed up, right?
Wow.
But what I learned in his conversation was because of his faith, he was able to lean on that and say to that voice, which was his voice, that's not of God, right? So he basically was battling himself with his voice, and then he got to the point when that happened, he would just lean on his faith. Now, a lot of people, I was talking to my friend who's a psychiatrist, and he was like, oh, he needs to da-da-da, he needs to do da-da-da. No, he's been living this way for years. And like you said, CJ, when he took medication, he no longer could fight because he was sedated, you know?
Yeah.
And so for him, it has worked. For him, it has worked. It doesn't work for everybody. But again, the more conversations we have like yours, CJ, we'll start to understand, because you're right. It's a lot of times if you're in the creative space, depending on what kind of job you have, that energy, that thing, it kind of is a part of you that you need to do that. And you can't afford to not do it because that's part of you is missing. So I think the more we talk about it, the more we'll have an understanding in general about mental health in general. And like you said, CJ, you could say, yes, I'm bipolar, and then keep it moving. It's not like I'm bipolar, I need to be in, been put into an institution. It's I'm bipolar and I'm living. And so the more we have the conversation, and I think that's the great thing about this and the great thing about your movie, it will make us start to understand this better. Because, I have a cousin who, now when he's not on his medication, he's totally off the rails. But it's like you said, it's a catch-22, because when he's on the medication, he's pretty much almost like a vegetable. So it's like, there's somewhere in the middle.
There's levels to this. There's levels.
There's levels to it.
Bipolar 1, and typically those with bipolar 1 are more off the rails, but they actually do have major consequences in life. Like, they are institutionalized because their world is almost like a psychotic moment. It's always they're lifting out of their body. And I've experienced some of that before, which is scary. It's almost scary when you can't control your brain. When you're thinking about something and that thought is like, whoa, I can't reel that in. It's a very scary moment. So you talked about like pinching yourself or having a rubber band on your wrist and you snap yourself back to reality. Like, no, I'm actually on this ground. I'm not floating away. There are different tools like that, but everybody's different.
Right.
It's important that everybody kind of express what they're feeling so they can figure out how to manage it. Again, I've learned to embrace it. You can look at it, you can be like, woe is me, and say my life sucks, and this is excuses for all my bad behaviors in life. Or you can really lean into it and understand why that's happening. I don't know if it's nature versus nurture with some of the things that I do, but it allows me to have a better understanding of why things are happening and manage dangerous situations. My therapist is like, your hypomania from a level of 1 to 10, 10 being you're at a strip club doing blow off strippers, going crazy, that crazy stuff. 1 being you're just like at your home doing nothing. Where do you typically go? I said around 5. He said, if you get higher than 5, you need medication, because that's where the dangerous, compulsive, risky behaviors begin. And that's when you're more likely to do something that's really going to jeopardize you, jeopardize your family, jeopardize your friends, everything. Yeah.
CJ, so put us inside when you're at your extreme, when you're at the strip club doing drugs off a stripper. You're at the strip club, at the strip club, drinking and doing drugs off the stripper. So, CJ, is it a thing where when we say it's not enough, what's going on? So you're already buzzed, you're already at the strip club. What's going on? What's going on inside your head? It's like, I need more. I need to do something else.
I explore that in the film. That's actually a scene that we explore in the film, because we talk about like, why do men do this? When we know it doesn't really mean anything. We know we're just a check page. We know that. But there's a void. So I'm going there and I'm doing these drugs, but there's a void. There's an insecurity in me. There's something that's missing in me. There's a partnership that's missing. There's just a loneliness that I have. So I'm seeking it out through somebody else. You know what I mean? And the drugs are just enhancing that. The drugs are basically increasing my hypomania, making me feel like I'm basically like undefeatable. You can't touch me. You know what I mean? Like you can't stop me. Like just hype. So racing thoughts, trying to act like I'm the big shit. You know what I mean? Like just stuff that just part of my mouth. Just stuff that you kind of see on TV, like what we try to like play out as like what we should be aspiring to, in the club with the bottle.
It's like a feeling. It's like a feeling.
Like, trying to act something that I'm not, trying to be something that I'm not, because I don't like myself, because I don't love myself, and because I sometimes hate myself, and that's real.
I would love to ask, just because This is really amazing insight. Have you have you located or found a happy place? Like, what is your happy place? Like, is there a place? Is there something that if
Yeah.
you are in a situation you can instantly do? Like, have you found that happy place? Or
Yeah, I can. I
mhm,
used to be really good at meditating. It takes time, it takes focus.
mhm.
Um,
Was that actually helpful for you?
Absolutely. I can
Okay.
meditate and go to sleep. Meditation is amazing. I think
Hmm.
there's a question about natural medications. I think my psychiatrist wants me to eventually, I don't take my medication, but he wants to go towards a more natural based medication. So I can pause myself when I say when I breathe. I can, and I'm doing it now. I can allow my thoughts to go black. If
Hmm.
something rushes in, I embrace it and I let it go, just like that.
Mhm.
And then I go right back to black. And that calms me and that situates me. And I'm able, that's maybe my happy space. Or, I mean, my two daughters. I mean, when I'm with my two
Right.
daughters, that's like, the happiest I can possibly be.
CJ,
No,
I have a question real quick.
Yeah, what's up, baby?
Because I think it's important that we talk about natural medicine. And with that, I need to know what kind of weed works best. Is it OG Kush? Is it blueberry garlic? Like I personally, I have an Iron Man bowl because I don't like blunts because I'm a germaphobe. So I have
Okay.
a different type of anxiety when it comes to
Okay.
that type of stuff. And so I want to know for you, like for me, it's a combination of like OG Kush and blueberry garlic that works really, really well for me. That kind of keeps
blueberry
me calm.
garlic.
What
Actually,
kind of natural medicines
we,
does your doctor recommend, or do you recommend?
we're still
Like, I need
working
to know
through
what
that.
kind of weed to buy.
We're still working through that process, but I'll be very honest. You know what works well for me? Edibles, like gummy edibles. Like they
Oh,
they will relax my body. They'll relax like my
you see
mind,
how happy I just got? You see, I
and they
shifted my
just
whole body.
and
My
Man,
they
fat
just
ass woke
like
up like
man,
and they,
the whole podcast has changed now. Wow.
yeah, they
ooh, edibles.
so edibles are for good for me because I like. So the thing is with me and weed, which is funny because my mind is always racing. Like I don't want it to take away from my creative side, and I know
Hmm.
some people get really creative with weed. Me, it does the opposite. It kind of like
Right, it slows you down.
It slows me down, and so I lose that edge. And my edge is what I have. My edge is the gift that God gave me, and I recognize that. So it's just I try not to harness it too much, but I will say an edible at nighttime, like around 10 o'clock, you know, it's
And
good.
and so and Dave, you mentioned Dave. How do you deal with it, Dave? Because again, we know you're a maniac. We know you're
Yes,
you're a
Yeah.
workaholic. We know
guilty.
but it seems like you find your happy space. What techniques did you use, and when did you realize it was something more than just your personality? And then what were your first steps to kind of get it under control?
I think I realized around, if I'm being honest, I was conscious of it right after my father died in 2005.
Mm.
Right. In 2009, when I was homeless, I just thought I'm homeless. That's why I'm depressed right now. When I moved in with my brother, I thought, okay, well, I'm in my brother's garage with a Barbie hanging out of my behind, so that's why I'm depressed right now. When I was, when I got my last gig before I retired, I said, oh, you know, I'm doing this, but I'm not in syndication anymore, so that's why I'm depressed right now. And the only common denominator in all of those situations was me. So I said, maybe when I go out on my own, that'll be the thing that makes me happy. So I went out on my own. I started all these businesses, and I still wasn't happy. I felt like it was never enough. I could never be enough for everybody. I couldn't be enough of a good husband. I couldn't be enough of a good father. Couldn't be enough of a good brother, good son. And what I realized was I didn't have anybody to talk to who could understand what I was going through. And I found a wonderful therapist um, and this is not an endorsement, but I found a wonderful therapist through an app called BetterHelp. And this guy specializes in dealing with people who are in high level situations, who deal with, the pressure of, oh my God, I got to make payroll because all these families depend on me.
Right.
And, I tried the Zoloft, I tried the Wellbutrin. All of that stuff just made me kind of a vegetable. And I'm not knocking those things. For me, it made me a vegetable. And what I had to realize was what I really needed was for me to get in tune with my body, for what I really needed and what worked miracles for me. And I'm not speaking for CJ or you or anybody else, but for me, my miracle drug was boundaries. I had to go straight up Nancy Reagan, just say no. Hey, Dave, can you do this thing? No. Dave, can I pick your brain? Cut the check. Hey, Dave, can you show up and do it? Listen, I need to spend some time with my kids. Like, I was saying yes to everything because yes got me out of that gas station sink. Yes got me out of living in my garage. Yes got me out of, a horrible relationship and into a great marriage. But I was saying yes to everything because every time I said yes, it felt like I was being impactful. And I wasn't talking about how it affected me. And so it was boundaries. It was telling people what I needed from them because everybody always assumed I was good. Even in radio, they would do it. Oh, he's Radio Tupac. He gets shot. He gonna go across the street once his non-compete is up, and he's gonna rain fire and brimstone down on these cats. Like, that's not what happened,
Wow.
And then, like, when my little one was born, oh my God! Like, speaking of the devil.
And that's
my medicine.
There you go. Oh, beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's it, man. And and that's the thing about it, Dave. And I think again that men don't. Everybody has their thing, and if you don't, hey, great. Like my thing is, I'm always been super well adjusted. My thing is performance anxiety. And it's so funny when I was it reared its head when I was like in middle school running track, right? And so I would get into the, throw my throws, and I would get into the ring, and I could hear everything. I could hear every car, every bird, everybody talking. So performance anxiety. So it shows itself when I'm in middle school, right? And then I started to have it when I got in my 20s, in relationships. If any distraction would throw me off into a spiral of I could not, it wasn't gonna happen. I mean, it could be, I could, if the TV was on, if some, and so it's like that's my thing, the performance anxiety. And it's funny, the only thing I did not have it is in media. I don't have it in, in front of a microphone or in front of a television. I mean, in front of a microphone, in front of a camera, but in other things or public speaking, but, but in the bedroom, a lot of times when it comes to like, if I'm in something that I'm not familiar with. And so I guess all of us have something that we deal with, and again, I think men, we keep it to ourselves because we were taught that you were weak if you couldn't blah, 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 And so I'm glad, I think someone posted it. I'm glad, CJ, these movies like yours, podcasts like yours, conversation like ours, make people say, you know what? And to be honest, I think young people, it's a different world than it was what we grew up in. And I'm older than you guys, but it used to be a guy couldn't say anything. Right. But what's funny about it is, from guys from our generation, we still got that on us. So like people be free with their conversation. Then after a while, be like, wait a minute. No. It's like, I notice it's like an interesting thing. If you notice that, CJ, like some crowds, like they're open, but then to a certain point, it'll be like, all right, man, so it's very interesting.
It's too much. It's too much. Yeah. And I could be too much for people. I mean, I get that. I could be too much. I mean, it is what it is, but this is my truth. And just the beauty of this conversation right now, because, I'm willing to say, this is me, and everybody else is like, this is me, and everybody else can share and get that out.
Exactly.
And now everybody who's listening, somebody can now relate into that. And somebody can look at themselves and like, I get that. A little bit of Dave is like me. I get that. And you don't feel alone. And so just having the conversation is so important. There may not be a right or wrong answer, but it's just having that conversation. And, for my Black men out there, it's just, I got a chance to speak at Jessup, which is Maryland's maximum jail facility in Maryland. It's like a supreme facility in Maryland. I forget what they're called, maximum security facility. And I was talking to inmates, about 50 of them, who were continuing their high school or college degree. And every single one of them, but one person, looked like me. And, they're 30 years old, and they're for murder, or they're in there for drugs, or they're in there for all this shit. And it was supposed to be like a 30-minute conversation. It turned into a 3-hour conversation. And these men, in like the most masculine place you can possibly be, where you have to protect your life daily, these men were willing to actually open up and share what they were scared of. Like, it was probably one of the greatest moments of my life to be around all these men who they knew that I leave, you know what I mean? And they stay. but they were still willing to share just because I opened up to them and said, I'm here because I care. And like, it really, the power of sharing is just, it's an amazing, and it's old as time. It's nothing new under the sun, but it's really an amazing thing to do. So it's awesome to watch us share here. Because
that, what, CJ, it's such a great point, because it's like, when you're right, when a man sees another man. I interviewed Life Jennings years ago. Life Jennings was in prison, and so he went back and performed this on YouTube, and he does the song "Cry," right? And so he came from that prison, so they knew many of them were in prison when he was there, and he's gone on to have this career. And so he does the song "Cry," and to see the men cry and be okay with it, you know what I mean? It's like they weren't going to just, like you said, CJ, they're just not going to do that with anybody, but They trusted him. They knew that he understood, and those words he was saying was their life, and they were sitting there crying in prison. And like you said, life is going to leave, and they're going to still be there, but because that portal was opened up of expression, they could do that. And so, like you said, I totally agree. This conversation, your podcast, this movie will get people more comfortable. And again, I think especially when you talk about that older, the older Black guys over 45, because there's so many stories. Think about your uncle. I always say this, like the uncle that is wilding out at the cookout, but nobody really has a conversation. They just are used to him being wild and being crazy or disrupting. Nobody sits down and says, what's going on? A lot of times it might be Veterans Day and he didn't get no love on Veterans Day and he was a veteran. It might be, but we kind of like go on about our lives. And it could be as a people because we struggle so much. And a lot of times it's almost like, well, I'm struggling too. I don't have time to hear
they've torn us apart, man. They really have as a people. I mean, they really have. So it's tough.
And shout out to Spectre Nation. When you were talking, Dave, and again, Spectre Nation has us on his platform today. Spectre Nation mentioned Dave, and any business owner understands. He said he had a heart attack when he was worrying about paying his people. And so, that entrepreneur thing, that's the thing. When you got that 9 to 5, and that check's coming 2 weeks, every 2 weeks, that's the one thing. When you got to pay people and they're all depending on you, that's a whole level that a lot of people will never understand, right? And even if it's just 4 people. I mean, if it's 2 people, at the end of the day, that pressure is on you,
Yeah. It's hard. It's very hard. And the thing that I tell people is and the problem, especially in our culture as Black folks, we love to see the shine. Because the shine is sexy, right? The jets and the vacations and the lifestyle luxury, the Patek Philippe's and the red bottoms and all that other dumb stuff, right? All of that is great. But the grind part, what it takes to get there and the trade-off that comes with that, it's brutal, man. It is absolutely brutal. But the thing of it is you love it because you would rather depend on you than be subject to what somebody else tells you to do. Like entrepreneurs are made, but once we're made, we're built different, and we can't go back to it's like being unplugged from the Matrix. You can go back in and visit, but you can't live there because you know too much. But oh my God, it's nobody cries, and that's why people say I'd rather cry in a Ferrari. I'd rather cry in my BMW. I have one. You don't know. The tears, it still hurts.
It feels the same. It feels
exactly the same. Listen, today is my grandmother's birthday. My grandmother's been gone for 11. It'll be 11 years this April, right? She never saw me hit success. Like I had things that I wanted. I was telling my wife this morning. I'm like, it's my mom's birthday. She was like, "You all right?" I said, "Yeah." But I just remembered when I was a kid, she always said, one day you're going to get me to the Greek Isles. She wanted to she wanted to go to the Greek Isles. She wanted to, to do those things. And I never got to do that, And I remember, you ever see them Black people like, oh my God. I did that, at her grave because I just felt like, damn, if I had just hustled a little bit more, if I just, you could have gotten the fruits of this. And what my wife said to me this morning was important. Like, and mental health is not just an inside job; it's a family affair. Right. My wife said this to me, and it was, "Did you ever think that you needed another angel, and that the reason that you're seeing so much massive success in the 10 years she's been gone is because she needed to oversee what you were doing?" I was floored. I was like, bars at 6 o'clock in the morning?
That's right.
Bars?
She hit you with that bar. She hit you with that bar. That's that wife's bar. That wife's bar. Come on now.
That's a lot to carry, Dave. That's a lot to carry to be like, I wish they could have seen
exactly
this, because that's guilt, and that wasn't your fault. You know,
and Dave, you know, she was not. That's not. She did not expect that from you. That's great.
No.
That was. She would give everything just to hold your hand. She didn't go the Greek Isles. Great, but her baby. What she call you?
Yeah, she called me baby.
Yeah, she call you something. Look, also, shout out to Spectre Nation. He's got to go do his show, gentlemen. This is a great way to start off a Friday. I feel, hey, CJ, man. Tell people where we can see this whole movie, how we can support, where can we listen to the podcast, man.
Yes.
We want to follow your.
Here we go.
And
So,
CJ, thank you for being 100%, man. You kept it 100.
Saving lives, bro. Saving lives.
Man.
No problem. Thank you for the opportunity. It's, normalizedpodcast.com is where you find the podcast. Normalized the film is where you can see the trailer. We're actually putting the film on the website soon, but again, we just have to go through some legalities. But you can check the trailer out. We premiere at the DC Film Festival March 3rd through the 6th. And so we're still doing our festival promotional tours. And again, working in closing development process of a TV show. So we're really taking this to the next level. It needs to be said. Our voices need to be heard. Our voices need to be heard because they're not being represented. They're just not. So we just need to get out there.
So CJ, Dave, of course, we need to get CJ back on right before the event, and of course, we got to be there and support. Thank you, gentlemen. Anything, Dave? Any rap you're going to point people to your book and what you're doing and what they need?
Absolutely. So my book right now is Sell It Like Jesus, Principles and Strategies of the World's Greatest Salesman. You can get it wherever you get books, but businessbullyshow.com, you can get it. I will sign it, send it to you personally. Right now, we're doing a mastermind for folks that want to start, grow, expand their businesses. If you go to Instagram and go to the Business Bully, that first link in my bio, you can apply. I bought the finance company, so it doesn't matter about your credit. You can get in on this program, for less than what you would pay in your cell phone bill. And like we're changing lives right now, so I'm really excited to help people start, grow, and expand their businesses, man. But like, forget me. CJ's out here saving lives, man, because like I wouldn't have the courage to talk about my mental health until after I met CJ that I started telling people publicly, like, I suffer from depression and anxiety.
Okay, well, see, it must be a radio thing. And so Bootsy, we can't say Bootsy had a visitor yesterday. We cannot say, but just say a big wig, and that's what Bootsy's doing. So Bootsy, as we wrap into the weekend, give your good news about the scholarships, and we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, well, shout out to the University of District of Columbia. All of my broadcast journalism majors will now be able to enroll to the early mass communications programs at UDC before they get to college for free. We will be doing a whole week-long presentation this summer, and then there will be scholarships available. The number we don't know yet, but it's definitely more than 3. So I can say that. So, man, just thank you all. But Chris, CJ, I'm sorry, man, thank you so much for this, because this has completely opened my mind. This has sparked something amazing. Thank you for being so open, honest, and transparent as well. I really appreciated it.
You know what? You had to be open to receive it. So you're doing your thing too. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, family. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you so much. If you're watching it live, if you're watching it later, thank you so much for the support. Make sure you follow us. Follow what we're doing. Go to the YouTube channel, Reinventing Marc Clarke. And of course, Instagram is The Marc Clarke Show. I will see you Monday. It's Mad Music Monday. Samantha Gunny got a special, feature happening on Monday. We're talking music. We'll
she coming back?
Hey, what's up? It's Marc Clarke. When I interviewed Debbie, I was excited about her book. When I got her book, Harvesting Your Thoughts, Emotions, and Actions, I am so impressed and fired up. What I love about this book, it has inspirational quotes, it has affirmations, and it makes you look inside. It makes you look into yourself. Like, for instance, this is one of my favorite quotes. Now, I'm an only child, so I love this one. Sometimes you have to be alone to realize that you are the only thing that you need. Sometimes you have to be alone to realize that you are the only thing that you need. That right there is so inspirational. And then what I love about it is she gives you the motivation, and then she asks you your thoughts. What say you? And then she gives you a space to write down your thoughts. So you could date it. You could put your thoughts, how you were feeling. You can come back and check it out. It's a workbook that you can really use and apply to your life. Look at it. They say big things come in small packages. This is packing a wallop. And it's also, again, just a workbook that really can change your life. And that's why I love it so much. Again, Harvesting Your Thoughts, Emotions, and Actions by my girl, Debbie Mendez Taylor. Get it on Amazon. Get it on Amazon today.